What if your memories are lies your brain tells to keep you sane? What if every choice you've made was never really yours? Have you ever chased truth, only to find it vanish the moment you touched it? Why do some lies feel more real than facts? Why does the more you understand, the less you trust your own mind? What if thinking is the disease, not the cure? Tonight, we explore the spaces where logic folds in on itself, where the mind short-circuits under its own weight. These aren't puzzles. They're mirrors, and what you see might not blink back. Expect contradictions. Expect questions with no answers. Expect to feel something come loose, because this is where identity splits, where reason becomes unreliable, where the thoughts you've avoided finally speak. If you came here for clarity, leave now. But if you're ready to be unraveled, piece by piece, welcome. The descent begins. The grandfather paradox. Imagine a machine that lets you drift back through time, deeper than memory. You arrive at a moment before your grandfather ever met your grandmother. A strange idea crawls into your mind. What if you ended his life before he had children? If he dies, your parent is never born. If your parent isn't born, you aren't either. But if you don't exist, who killed him? And if he wasn't killed, then you were born. And now you're back thinking of ending him. This is the time loop we call the grandfather paradox. It's not just about time travel, it's about how fragile cause and effect really are. We treat time as a straight road, past, present, future. But this paradox twists that road into a circle, where cause and consequence devour each other like snakes biting their own tails. Now ask yourself, do we make our decisions? Or are we simply reacting to echoes from futures we've already lived in another version of reality? Modern quantum theories even suggest every choice may create a parallel universe. So if you did kill your grandfather, maybe you only did it in some distant world you'll never visit again. Still, the question haunts. If one small act can split time, how real is the identity you call you? The Sorite's paradox. Picture a heap of sand. Not big, not small, just a mound. Now take away one grain. Still a heap, right? Remove another, and another. At what point does the heap stop being a heap? This is the Sorite's paradox. Sounds simple, even silly, but it hides a deep truth about change. We accept that small differences don't matter. But what if enough small shifts erase everything? Now imagine your own life. One forgotten call. One broken promise. One missed morning. When does a loving relationship become a hollow silence? When does dedication turn to burnout? Nobody notices the shift until everything's gone. This paradox challenges not just language but perception. We assume there's a clear line between still fine and too far gone. But in reality, it's a slope so gentle we slip without knowing. Tiny choices shape who you are. And by the time you realize you've changed, the heap is already gone. The Pinocchio paradox. You know the wooden boy whose nose grows when he lies. But here's the twist. What if Pinocchio says, "My nose will grow now"? If he's telling the truth, then his nose shouldn't grow. But if his nose doesn't grow, he was lying, so it should grow. But if it does grow, that means he was telling the truth, which means it shouldn't have grown at all. This is a self-referential paradox, truth folding in on itself. Like saying, this sentence is false. If it's true, then it's false. And if it's false, then it's true. It's not just child's play. It's a question of logic devouring itself. A loop that mocks the very system built to make sense of the world. Now stretch it to real life. Think of politicians who say, "We always tell the truth," or influencers claiming, "I'm not fake," words that cancel themselves as they're spoken. So the paradox becomes more than just Pinocchio, it becomes a mirror. One that asks, can truth exist when we're the ones defining it? The lottery paradox. Imagine millions of people buy tickets. You look at each one and think, this person won't win. That's reasonable, most won't. But if you say that about everyone, then you've concluded that no one will win. That's clearly false, someone has to. So now you face the paradox. All individual beliefs seem valid, but together, they make an impossible outcome. We make the same mistake in life. We believe this person won't succeed, that plan won't work, this effort won't matter. Each belief sounds logical, but stack them all together, and you've accidentally erased hope itself. This paradox is about more than probability. It reveals a flaw in the way we trust reason. Just because your logic holds at one level doesn't mean it holds at every level. It's a warning. Doubt too much and you'll miss the rare miracle that proves everyone wrong. The two envelopes paradox. Two envelopes lie in front of you. You're told one has double the money of the other. You pick one. Let's say it has $1,000. Now the doubt creeps in. What if the other envelope holds $2,000? Or maybe $500? You do the math. 50% chance of more. 50% of less. So statistically, it seems smarter to switch. But then the cycle repeats. No matter which one you hold, you'll always feel like the other one might be better. This is the two envelopes paradox. It feels logical, yet leads to endless switching. A loop of uncertainty, fed by incomplete information. And isn't that life? You pick a job, a partner, a path, but you don't know what the other envelope held. So you keep wondering, you keep switching, you keep second-guessing. The paradox reveals how logic can betray you when it's fed on assumptions. Just because you can calculate something doesn't mean it's worth calculating. Sometimes the wisest move is to hold what you have and stop the loop before it eats you alive. The crocodile paradox. Your child is taken by a crocodile. Cold eyes, ancient stillness. The creature offers a deal. I'll return your child if, and only if, you correctly predict what I will do next. So you say, you won't return my child. Now the paradox begins. If the crocodile doesn't return the child, you predicted correctly, so he should return the child. But if he does return the child, your prediction was false, and he shouldn't return the child. No matter what he does, he breaks his own logic. He's trapped, and so are you. This is the crocodile paradox, a riddle about prediction, trust, and control. It asks, can a promise made under conditions of perfect logic even be fulfilled? Think about governments, contracts, relationships, systems built on conditional trust. What happens when one side uses your truth against you? This paradox shows that some promises are traps, some rules sabotage themselves, and sometimes the monster isn't the crocodile, it's the logic that dares to play God. The unexpected hanging paradox. A judge tells a prisoner, you will be hanged next week, but the day will surprise you. You won't know when until it happens. The prisoner thinks it through. It can't be Friday. He'd expect it if he survived till Thursday. So Friday's out. Then Thursday's the last possibility. But now that's predictable too. So it's not Thursday. One by one, he eliminates each day. He concludes it can't happen. But then on Wednesday they hang him. And he's shocked. This is the unexpected hanging paradox. It breaks the logic of certainty. The prisoner's mistake? Believing that understanding the rules gives control over the outcome. But the future doesn't always follow our deductions. The paradox shows how knowledge can backfire, how predicting a surprise can erase the very thing that makes it surprising. Sometimes, life strikes hardest when you think you've figured it all out. So when you're sure nothing can go wrong, maybe that's exactly when it will. The liar's paradox. I am lying, someone says. If it's true, then he's lying. But if he's lying, then it's not true. So, is the sentence true or false? This is the liar's paradox. A sentence that loops in on itself like a snake eating its own tail. A glitch in language, a fracture in logic. But look deeper, this isn't just wordplay. It exposes a terrifying truth. Not all questions have answers. Not all statements are meant to be solved. Some are just traps. Now imagine this paradox inside a system, an AI, a courtroom, a belief. If a rule says, I don't follow rules, what happens? If a leader says, trust me, I'm always lying, do you trust him? We live in a world full of liars' paradoxes. People saying, I'm being honest, as they twist the truth behind their smile. Systems that call themselves free while controlling your choices. This paradox isn't just logical, it's existential. What happens when even language betrays you? The bootstrap paradox. Imagine you travel back in time. In your hands is a book, your favorite novel. You meet a struggling young writer and hand it to him. Inspired, he publishes it under his name. Years pass. That book becomes famous. One day, it ends up back in your hands, the very copy you once gave him. Here's the riddle. Who actually wrote it? This is the bootstrap paradox. A time loop where creation has no beginning. The book seems to exist, yet no one truly authored it. It's passed from future to past, like a story without a storyteller. Now stretch this idea. Imagine a scientist from the future builds a machine, travels to the past, and gives the blueprints to himself. That self grows up, builds the same machine, and repeats the loop. The origin, lost. The cause and effect, mutually dependent. No first step, no last. We crave beginnings, stories with roots. But this paradox whispers something unsettling. Not everything begins somewhere. Some things just are. Apply it to your life. What if your ideas were seeded by echoes of someone else? Or worse, what if your best thought didn't start with you and never really started at all? The paradox of personal identity. Look at an old photograph of yourself as a child. That little face, that unfiltered smile, that fragile belief in the world. Now look in the mirror, your adult face, weathered by choices and time. Are they the same person? This is the personal identity paradox. We change. Every cell in your body has likely replaced itself since then. Your thoughts, habits, even memories, they've shifted, faded, rearranged. So where does the self reside? If your mind evolves and your memories erode, does a constant you exist? Or are you just a narrative edited with every passing day? Some say identity lies in memory. Lose your memories and you lose yourself. Others say it's in the soul, the unshakable core beneath the noise. But what if both are illusions? This paradox claws at a deeper truth, that the person you were may be gone, and the one you are now is already slipping away. You are not a fixed entity. You are a process, a river of thought, a skin that sheds. And maybe, just maybe, The only thing permanent about you is that you're always becoming someone else. The hypergame paradox. Imagine a game called Hypergame. The rules are simple. Choose any game that ends in finite time. Play it. That's it. But wait, Hypergame itself is a game. So can you choose Hypergame as the game inside Hypergame? If yes, then you're playing Hypergame inside Hypergame inside Hypergame. A recursion that never ends. But if you say no, you've just declared that Hypergame cannot be part of itself even though it qualifies. This is the Hypergame paradox. A self-consuming loop born from innocent rules. Like holding a mirror to a mirror and watching reflections stretch into infinity. In logic and language, this paradox is a warning. Systems that include themselves often collapse into confusion. Self-reference can birth infinity or madness. Now apply this to society. A law that governs all laws, does it obey itself? A moral code that says, question everything. Should you question that too? We build systems hoping for clarity. But sometimes the structure itself is the glitch. The paradox of the ruler. You pick up a ruler to measure a strange object. But then, a thought hits. How do you know the ruler is accurate? You can't measure a tool with itself. And yet that's what we try to do with beliefs, with systems, with ourselves. This is the ruler paradox. If your measuring stick is flawed, every result is too. And worse, if you try to measure the stick using its own length, the error stays hidden. Zoom into physics and it deepens. According to relativity, objects in motion shrink, so the faster your ruler moves, the less it measures. At quantum levels, even particles refuse to be pinned down. The very act of measuring disturbs them. So what is truth when your tools are broken? What is certainty when observation changes the observed? This paradox hits hardest when applied to the mind. Can you measure your own sanity? Judge your own bias? Define your own truth? Or are we all walking around with bent rulers, certain we're right, because we've never known otherwise? The illusion of impossibility. She signs up for a contest she barely understands. The room is full of experts, rehearsed and refined. She's the outsider, quiet, unassuming. Most assume she'll be out in the first round. Even she thinks that, but by the end she wins. Unexpectedly, unexplained. Now the mind begins its usual tricks. People say, of course, she was humble. That's why we missed her talent. Others say, we should have known. But here's the twist. The moment someone unexpectedly wins, we immediately create reasons to explain why it wasn't a surprise at all. This is the illusion of impossibility. We claim to be surprised, but our brain rushes in to repaint the past, editing reality into something that feels predictable. We do this with success, love, failure. We underestimate people, events, ourselves. And when proven wrong, we stitch logic over it like a bandage. But the truth? Some outcomes are wild. Some victories happen because the world is chaos wrapped in patterns. And just because something feels unlikely doesn't mean it won't happen. It only means you've stopped imagining that it could. The weapon that cuts itself. A man walks into a marketplace holding two things, one in each hand. In one, a spear. This can pierce anything, he boasts. In the other, a shield. This can block everything, he swears. Then someone asks, what happens if your spear strikes your shield? Silence. This is the paradox of unstoppable claims. Two absolutes collide and suddenly both fall apart. We hear versions of this every day. My system is flawless. This idea has no weakness. This belief can't be shaken. But when pushed to their limits, perfection breaks itself. The real question isn't which is stronger, the weapon or the defense. The question is, can anything truly be perfect when its opposite also claims perfection? In our lives, we often carry contradictions. We want complete freedom but total control. We want absolute safety yet limitless risk. We want truth but only if it agrees with us. Eventually, one belief cuts through the other. Or both break, so be careful with absolutes. Even the sharpest spear can't survive its own edge. Even the strongest shield cracks when forced to face itself. The mirror that lies. Picture a puppet made of wood, cursed or blessed, with a strange truth. Every time he lies, his nose grows. One day he says, "My nose is about to grow." Now pause. If that's true, then he's not lying. So his nose shouldn't grow. But if it doesn't grow, that means he was lying, which should make it grow. It's a trap, a sentence that cancels itself, a statement with no solid ground. This is the paradox of the lying mirror, a loop where truth and falsehood bleed into each other, where language folds in on itself. You've heard it before in other ways. I always lie. This sentence is false. Even, I don't trust anyone who says, "Trust me." These aren't just puzzles. They're warnings, proof that our minds crave certainty. But language is a slippery tool. We live in a world of half-truths, performative honesty, curated confession. What happens when even your truth is just performance? Sometimes the most dangerous lies are the ones that sound honest because they mirror what we want to believe. If you've made it this far, something in you isn't seeking answers. You're chasing better questions. These paradoxes weren't meant to be solved. They were meant to infect your certainty, to echo long after the screen goes dark. The mind loves control, but reality isn't loyal to logic. And sometimes, all we have are shadows dancing in a mirror that refuses to reflect. So as you drift off or wake up to a different self, remember, every contradiction holds a truth too large for clean language. Every impossible loop is a map with no destination. If this journey stirred something quiet inside you, something you can't quite name, you're not alone. There will always be another layer, another illusion, another fracture in the fabric. Until next time, rest in the unknown.